The rain fell harder than it had in weeks, turning the streets of downtown Portland into rivers of gray. Sarah Matthews sat in her idling car at the intersection of 5th and Morrison, watching a woman across the street huddle beneath a torn cardboard box. The woman's clothes were soaked through, her shoulders trembling visibly even from this distance. Sarah's hand moved toward the door handle, then stopped. She'd been late to work 3 times this month already. Her boss had made it clear that one more tardiness would mean a written warning. But something in the way the woman clutched that disintegrating cardboard, the way she tried to make herself smaller against the storm, made Sarah's chest tighten with a pain she couldn't ignore. The light turned green. Cars behind her honked. Sarah pulled into a parking spot, grabbed her umbrella, and stepped into the rain. She didn't know it yet, but this single decision would unravel everything she thought she knew about herself, about strangers, and about the invisible threads that connect us all. The woman looked up as Sarah approached, her eyes wide with something between fear and hope. Up close, Sarah could see she was younger than she'd appeared from the car, maybe early 30s, with dark circles under her eyes and lips cracked from exposure. A faded pink backpack sat in a puddle beside her. "Hi," Sarah said, feeling suddenly foolish with her expensive umbrella and designer raincoat. "I'm Sarah. Would you like to get somewhere dry? Maybe grab some coffee." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "I don't have any money." "My treat," Sarah said, extending the umbrella over both of them. "Come on, there's a diner just around the corner." "Emma," the woman whispered. "My name is Emma." At the diner, Sarah ordered coffee and a full breakfast while Emma sat rigidly in the booth, water pooling beneath her chair. She ate slowly at first, as if afraid the food might disappear, then faster, like someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. Sarah watched, her own coffee growing cold, and wondered how many people had walked past Emma this morning. How many had looked away? "I'm not usually like this," Emma said suddenly, her voice breaking. "I had a job, an apartment. I had a life." Sarah leaned forward. "What happened?" The story came out in fragments. A diagnosis, stage 3 lymphoma, medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover, a job lost because she couldn't work through the chemotherapy, an eviction, family who couldn't help because they were barely surviving themselves. The American dream, Sarah thought bitterly, for those without a safety net. "I'm in remission now," Emma said, managing a weak smile. "Isn't that ironic? I survived cancer just to die on the streets." Sarah's hands trembled as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. She thought of her own apartment, her spare bedroom that she used for storage. She thought of all the excuses she could make, all the reasons why getting involved was complicated, dangerous even. She thought of her mother's warnings about trusting strangers, about protecting herself first. Then she thought about Emma eating that breakfast like it was her last meal on earth. "Listen," Sarah said, the words coming out before she could stop them. "I have a spare room. Nothing fancy, but it's warm and dry. You could stay there while you figure things out." Emma's fork clattered to the plate. "I can't ask you to do that." "You didn't ask. I'm offering." "You don't even know me." "I could be anyone." Sarah smiled. "Then I guess we'll get to know each other." The first week was awkward. Emma moved through Sarah's apartment like a ghost, apologizing for everything, using too much hot water, making noise, existing in space. She'd wake up before dawn and be gone all day, returning only after dark, as if afraid to impose on Sarah's kindness for too long. Sarah would find small things done around the apartment, dishes washed, floors swept, plants watered. Emma's silent thank yous for a generosity she couldn't quite accept. Slowly, gradually, they began to talk. Real conversations over morning coffee, evening dinners that Sarah insisted they share. Emma had been a graphic designer before everything fell apart. She showed Sarah her portfolio on a library computer. Stunning work, creative and bold. Sarah, who worked in marketing for a tech startup, saw opportunity. "Let me talk to my boss," Sarah said. "We're always looking for freelancers." Emma's eyes widened. "Sarah, you've already done so much. This isn't charity. Your work is incredible. We'd be lucky to have you. But the universe," Sarah would learn, "doesn't reward good intentions without testing them first." The call came on a Tuesday morning. Sarah's boss, Michael, wanted to meet. When she arrived at his office, his expression was grim. "Sarah, we need to talk about your performance," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. "Your tardiness, your distraction. Now I hear you're trying to bring in some homeless person to work on our accounts?" Sarah's face burned. Emma is extremely talented. Her circumstances don't define her abilities. Her circumstances, Michael said coldly, are a liability. What happens when clients find out? This is a business, not a charity case. So we should just ignore people when they need help? Pretend they don't exist? We should focus on our jobs. Which, by the way, you're in danger of losing if this continues. Sarah walked out of that office with her hands shaking, her future suddenly uncertain. She could apologize, distance herself from Emma, protect her career. The practical choice, the safe choice. Instead, she spent her lunch hour making phone calls. That evening, she sat Emma down at the kitchen table. "I have something to tell you," she said, and Emma's face immediately fell, bracing for rejection. "My boss won't hire you," Sarah said. "But I spent today calling every contact I have in the industry. I have 3 interviews lined up for you next week. And I want you to know, whatever happens with my job, you're not going anywhere. This is your home for as long as you need it." Emma covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Not the quiet, apologetic crying she'd done that first day, but deep, wrenching sounds of someone finally allowing themselves to break. Sarah moved around the table and held her. This stranger who'd become family in a matter of weeks, and cried too. The interviews led to freelance work. The freelance work led to a portfolio rebuild. Within 3 months, Emma had steady income. Within 6, she had enough saved for a security deposit. But she didn't leave. She insisted on paying rent, on contributing to groceries, on being a partner in the household rather than a charity case. Sarah's career survived barely. Michael never forgave her defiance. But her work spoke for itself, and eventually, she found a new job at a company that valued compassion as much as productivity. 1 year after that rainy morning, Sarah and Emma sat on the apartment balcony, watching the city lights flicker to life. Emma had just signed a lease on her own place, not far from Sarah's. "I never thanked you properly," Emma said quietly, "for seeing me when everyone else looked away." Sarah shook her head. "You saved me too, you know. I was so caught up in protecting what I had that I forgot what really matters. You reminded me what it means to be human." "What does it mean?" Sarah thought about that morning, the moment her hand touched the door handle. "The choice between being late and being kind. It means showing up," she said finally, "even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient." Emma smiled, then reached into her bag. "I made something for you." She pulled out a small frame design, a beautiful, abstract piece featuring 2 umbrellas overlapping in the rain, their colors bleeding together into something new. "We protect each other," Emma said. "That's what I learned from you." Sarah hung the frame by her door, where she'd see it every morning on her way out. A reminder that kindness isn't a transaction, that humanity isn't about having all the answers or resources. It's about the moment you choose to stop, to see, to care. 6 months later, Sarah saw another person huddled in the rain. This time, she didn't hesitate. The world is full of Emmas waiting in the rain, and maybe, just maybe, it's full of Sarahs too. People who will pull over, open their umbrellas, and say the simplest, most powerful words in any language: "You matter. I see you. Let me help." Because in the end, we're all just strangers until someone decides we're worth knowing. We're all invisible until someone chooses to look. And sometimes, the person you save ends up saving you right back, in ways you never imagined possible. The rain still falls in Portland, turning streets to rivers. But somewhere in that city, 2 women remember the morning that changed everything. The morning one stopped and the other was seen. The morning kindness became more than a word. It became a bridge between 2 lives that needed each other more than either could have known. Her, Emma. The woman in the rain who reminded one person what it means to be human, and in doing so reminded us all.